What's up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here. So this is the final album review for Pink Floyd's discography. After 6 bloody years, it's about goddamn time. But needless to say, this is my review on the band's 15th and final released studio album entitled The Endless River. So The Endless River came out in 2014, and this was the album that was released 20 years after the previous album back in 1994, The Division Bell. And what we got on this album is pretty much like a collection of songs that were recorded from the same era of The Division Bell inside David Gilmour's Astoria houseboat that he bought back in '86. And I would say that to Gilmour and Mason to revisit the collection of this material and to rework and re-record some parts and put everything together to release this album, I think this was a pretty neat idea for the band, because even though that Richard Wright wasn't around at this period of time, because unfortunately he passed in 2008 at 65 from cancer, Wright was involved with Gilmour and Mason, that they were making this kind of music, but it was never released and it was shelved when they were making the Division Bell album. Some Floyd fans would really disregard it as a disappointment, but some fans would really defend it as an idea that Gilmour and Mason wanted to do something like this and make it as like a homage and a tribute to Richard Wright. I think it was something really nice. It was a special idea that they had, and the album was also dedicated to Storm Thorgerson as well, because he passed in 2013. The person on the front cover is a person named Ahmed Emad Aldin, and Aubrey Powell was the co-founder of Hypnosis, and he was the one that worked on the cover, and that Ahmed was a Pink Floyd fan himself, that he agreed to work with this album cover. It's not bad of a cover, and it's basically him on a rowing boat paddling through the clouds to reach the endless sunlight, and it's a decent cover for what it is. Musically, it's nothing like really changeable when it comes to the instrumentation, although this is really known as an instrumental album. There's a lot more of the keyboard sounds that Richard Wright did use on most of these tracks, although that there are some elements on this album that I find quite a bit similar to some of the previous sounds that Floyd had done, even some of the ones with the band with Roger Waters in it. Some music reminds me a little bit of The Wall, and also some bits remind me of The Dark Side of the Moon, and obviously some moments remind me of The Division Bell, because it was, as I said, like not that changeable of sound. The last track, Louder Than Words, was written by Polly Samson herself, and she took the inspiration when the time of Pink Floyd reunited with Roger Waters for their only performance together for Live 8 in 2005, their last performance with that lineup after 24 years. I think these lyrics on this song were fitting, and as a closing track, I personally would say that it's not as an epic like High Hopes from the Division Bell. High Hopes had more of a stronger and more of a powerful theme, but Louder Than Words is a good finale track to finish off Floyd's repertoire of tracks. But from the instrumental side of things, I think that a lot of it has some really gentle, ambient driven kind of music. As Nick Mason would say it, that it's more of an ambient instrumental album, which I don't blame him for that. I mean, I do love ambient music, but there are some very sweet and calm, soothing keyboard sounds. And there are moments of some improvisations, especially on some jams. But I think the biggest disappointment that I have with it is that most of the tracks, most notably on side 3, are just tracks that are less than 2 minutes in length, and that they feel like that they are going to build up something and make something bigger, but they just fall flat on their face, and it just doesn't really go anywhere. And that happens on a few of the other tracks before and after side 3. I just wish that this album could have been improved a little bit better with something much more interesting, maybe with some more like some experimental sounds, or a bit of like the avant-garde stuff that Floyd used to do when Waters used to be in the band, or something more melodic. And it just really feels like a bit of a lackluster attempt. But that is pretty much like the biggest problem that I have with this album. Production wise, it's nothing really that different, because it is similar to The Division Bell. Talking Hawking features more samples of Stephen Hawking's robotic voice, and we have heard his voice before on Keep Talking from The Division Bell. Very sweet guitar playing, and the vocals and backing vocals from Louder Than Words is really nice as well. Most of the instrumental parts on this album, they are very enjoyable despite the flaws that I have mentioned on this album nonetheless. So that is all I want to say about The Endless River by Pink Floyd, and let me know what you think of it. Do you think it's a great album or a disappointment? Just drop your comments down below. So I'm going to give this album a 7 out of 10. It's an album that I would listen to more than some of the other ones that I had reviewed, but I think it is a good album. It's not as strong as The Division Bell though. That's just personally what I think. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.